G'day guys and gal, there is a lot of places in Warhammer 40k I don't particularly want to visit. The Eye of Terror, the Maelstrom, Earth. But all of these places are a walk in the park compared to Commorragh, the Dark City and the home of the Dark Elder, where millions of slaves are brought into daily to endure the most horrific torments, where the weak are preyed upon by the strong for sport, and where not even death will grant you any true release, as the Dark Elder can just bring you back to life and start the process all over again. It truly has only 1 star on TripAdvisor. However, it's also an incredibly interesting place with rich lore, a lot of spicy politics, and some extreme levels of sci-fi to keep it all running. So I thought a great topic for today's video. Before we get started, another opportunity to download the best goddamn VPN on the market, as I'm once again partnering up with Surfshark VPN. What is a VPN? Why do you need one? And why Surfshark? Well, relax man, I'm about to answer those questions. A virtual private network is a software which allows you to more or less teleport your internet to another country, getting access to that country's internet and services. This is great for bypassing government firewalls, accessing significantly better streaming service libraries, which is mostly what I use it for since Australia always gets licked, or access to blocked websites, which for half of America right now is pretty handy if you want to get on the old Pornhub. Even if you just want to browse your own country's internet but keep your IP hidden and protected, Surfshark does that as well. Basically, everyone is going to need a VPN at some point in their life, especially if you travel. The reason Surfshark is the best choice in my opinion isn't just because they are paying me. Their UI is unbelievably easy to use, just one click and you're on, not to mention they have a massive library of countries to choose from. The final reason why I think you should use it is that if you go to my link surfshark.com/major, you'll get a juicy ass discount as well as an additional 4 months free. And if you somehow don't like it, Surfshark offers a 30-day money-back guarantee. Cheers to Surfshark for sponsoring this video. Today we'll go over the history, lore, and spiciness of Commorragh, the Dark City. Let's get into it. Despite its massive size and technological marvel, the Commorragh we know of today was actually built after the fall of the Elder. It has been growing ever since the fall, a multi-dimensional realm smashed together and held firm by the tight grip of Abstradal Vect. But how did it come about? Well, the fall of the Elder took a very long time. They didn't all just wake up one day with morning wood and go to town on each other. It started off slow, with a lot of Elder society not even realizing what was going on, as some Elder worlds were free of corruption and others had hidden cults on it. The most debased and foul of the Elder ended up taking their cults into the webway and creating cities there as a way to keep their orgies and shit away from the rest of the Elder. These cities were also valuable to the Elder Empire as they acted as ports and resupply stations for Elder using the webway for travel, thus why they were mostly left alone to their own devices. To clarify, they were originally designed as webway ports and became more dodgy and sexy as the Elder began to fall. Over time, as more and more Elder got horny and weird, these cities swelled in size. When the fall actually happened, ironically these webway cities, which massively contributed to the fall of the Elder, were spared as the influence of Slaanesh could not penetrate the webway. Many Elder actually fled from their dying worlds into the webway to join these protected cities. See, when Slaanesh was born, it didn't just insta-kill the Elder, it summoned a bunch of demons on all Elder worlds within the birth radius, with Slaanesh appearing to some of these worlds and personally consuming them. So while demons were killing Elder, there was some time for other Elder to escape. The Craftworlds had already bailed, as had the Exodites, so the Dark Elder that survived had to get to a webway portal or were already in the webway. Each of the webway cities acted as its own kingdom, with Commorragh being one of the greatest and ruled by a royal Elder family. However, Vect, born as a lowly slave with high ambitions, began to grow his power, creating a cabal of warriors and threatening the influence of the royal family. Vect managed to lure some salamanders into Commorragh and during the fight, used them as a method to assassinate the royal family. He quickly filled this power vacuum with his vicious politicking, assassinations, and strong military force. Thus he began the true birth of the Dark City. Vect would not tolerate the webway being full of different Dark Elder kingdoms, so he began invading each of the other cities and conquering, before then absorbing them into Commorragh via either straight up crushing it into his city, or if that wasn't feasible, creating strong webway portal routes to the other city, turning it into a satellite realm. This is what I mean when I refer to Commorragh as a multi-dimensional city, as large chunks of it are in their own pocket dimensions, but still very much part of the entire city. The size and scale of Commorragh got so massive that Vect even had to capture suns and drag them into the webway. How did the Dark Elder populate such a mega city? After all, the Elder race is supposed to be dying, right? Well, each Elder sub-faction has their own unique challenges for repopulation. For the Craftworlders, every new child they have requires a Spirit Stone to protect their soul. Spirit Stones are hard to get. For the Dark Elder, they don't use Spirit Stones and also do a lot of cloning and vat growing. Hence, most Dark Elder don't actually have parents and were made in test tubes. Thus, their population is fucking massive. The issue, however, is that they need to inflict pain on others to keep their souls safe from Slaanesh. Thus, all the real space raiding, which is risky unto itself. The rate of soul degradation is very slow in the webway, but quite fast in real space. So most of the Dark Elder's massive population is confined to the webway, which is their own limiting factor. Elder. They can have trillions of warriors, but can only bring a small fraction of that to bear, with most Dark Elder keeping their souls safe by attacking other Dark Elder within Commorragh. Thus why the city is so dangerous. Vect has done a pretty fucking good job keeping the Dark City together for over 5,000 years, but shit hasn't always gone his way, and the current status of the city is a not idealio. But before we dive into that clusterfuck, let's actually check out the structure of the city itself. There is Eilendrak, an especially dark shadowy region where mandrakes reside. It's said the portal to the mandrake dimension resides somewhere here. Next to Eilendrak is the Bone Middens, which is full of witch cults. It's famous for its massive display of bones and skeletons that have been put into mock battle positions. It's said there is at least one of every single sentient species in the galaxy displayed in the Bone Middens. The region of Commorragh is deliberately left as a ruin, as that is where the royal families of Commorragh were destroyed during the Salamander attack. Vect leaves it barren as a reminder to those that would oppose him. The mad lad even had 13 gigantic statues of himself erected here to stand over the ruins. Way to make a statement. Then there is the Hidden Blade region, home to a massive stronghold of Dark Elder warriors and soldiers who protect various key parts of Commorragh. You can kind of think of it like Commorragh's barracks and defense hub. Then there is High Commorragh, which is the rich and powerful district. It's positioned at the highest points of the Dark City and is where Archons and other notables live. It's the safest place to be in Commorragh as the spires are so tall and hard to access, unlike the dark pits of Low Commorragh where an attack can come from any corner. Speaking of which, Low Commorragh is the shithole of the city. It's the slums where the dregs and the desperate end up, and I'd honestly rather visit India as a woman than go here. That's how bad it is. In between High and Low Commorragh is Middle Darkness. It's not a fun place to be, even if it's not as bad as Low Commorragh. One of the most dark and hidden of all regions is Kane's Gate, a massive gate that connects Commorragh to the Warp. The gate was heavily guarded, as if it was opened, a huge tide of demons would stride forth, which did actually happen recently, hence why Commorragh is in a bit of a rough state, but more on that later. Old City is the oldest part of Commorragh when the Dark City was a resupply port. It's full of factories and other manufactorums where a shitload of slaves are sent in order to keep the Dark City operational. There are two key ports in Commorragh. First is the Port Carmine, which is hotly contested by different Dark Elder cabals. As a joke, when the Dark Elder return from raiding, they throw a bunch of jewels, artifacts and treasure into a pit beneath the port, as those artifacts have no real use for the Dark Elder. So there is a massive fucking pile of treasure sitting beneath it. Many desperate people travel here to plunder it, not many come back. The second and bigger port is the Port of Lost Souls. Very edgy. This is the port where most slaves and Dark Elder ships come to after a raid or depart from. The River Cadiz is another region that sucks, like pretty much all of them do. It's a filthy, acidic green lake where most of the corpses of Commorragh end up. The poor and desperate will then retrieve these bodies and turn them into food that can be given to the slaves of Commorragh. Sek Maegra is one of the satellite realms connected to Commorragh. It's not as bad as a lot of the other regions, but it's known to be a bit of a lawless dog-eat-dogs realm. It's full of young warriors eager to join a Calibite, as well as Xeno mercenaries. Dark Elder cabals will often come here to pick out the strongest to join them. The Sprawls are another shit region of Commorragh, kind of like a slum around the Port Carmine. It's full of the parched, which are Dark Elder who haven't been able to feed off the suffering of others due to a fall from grace or lack of influence and drive. This makes them subdued and almost zombie-like, walking around aimlessly as Slaanesh consumes more and more of their soul until they are little more than a husk. There are other realms, like the Korloop Gauntlet, the Night Sound Gulen, the Shav Mivyar, what the fuck, and the Sorrowfell, but there isn't much lore in these. If pretty much all realms in Commorragh sound terrible, that's the point. There's a reason why the Dark Elder aren't this massive galactic threat despite their advanced weaponry, skilled warriors, and powerful technology. Only a small portion of the city is armed and has enough access to slaves to inflict pain upon to allow them to perform real space raids. Commorragh is like one big fucked up playground where only the top 1% actually get to leave. If it wasn't for the constant epic gladiatorial matches going on, it's likely there would be many more uprisings and problems. But is Commorragh actually this impregnable fortress that no one dare enter unless directly brought in? No, it has been fucked in the ass a few times, and now it's going through a massive crisis. In M38, an Orc War made their way into the city through pure chance and caused a massive ruckus. The Dark Elder kinda like this though. When Commorragh gets invaded, the Dark Elder charge towards the invaders like a swarm, eager to inflict bloodshed. Hundreds of thousands of orcs were massacred, with over 10,000 being captured and used for epic gladiatorial matches for weeks. It was like Christmas for the Dark Elder. However, what wasn't Christmas was the more recent incident. See, Kane's Gate started to have issues. It would vibrate and loud booms would be heard on the other side. Demons were trying to get in. Vect positioned elite incubi, traps, and various other protective measures to prepare in case the gate was to open. Then a sequence of unfortunate events occurred. The opening of the Great Rift combined with the partial awakening of Yned hit Kane's Gate and blew it open, with demons pouring in. Due to the infighting nature of the Dark Elder, they didn't do a good job of containing it. To help stop the incursion, Vect had to allow Kedin Durak, Lord of the Mandrakes, to turn large swathes of Commorragh into a shadow realm controlled by the Mandrakes. He also had to personally lead a gigantic army to contain the outbreaks, and when that wasn't enough, he had to blast off into entire chunks of Commorragh into the warp, like cutting off infected limbs. This created shitloads of instability which the various Dark Elder sub-factions have been using to gain an advantage. To make matters worse, many Dark Elder began joining the Inari, which Vect despises, as the Inari allows Elder to no longer need to rely on Spirit Stones or on inflicting pain, thus taking away the Dark Elder's reliance on Vect and his Calibite system. Vect even had to die and get resurrected in some kind of 4D chess move to reassert his power, but even then it's still a nightmare for him. Things have gotten so bad that a group of Dark Elder actually tried to team up with the Inquisition. The Inquisition wanted them to repair the failing Golden Throne. The Dark Elder wanted a sample of the Emperor's DNA in order to build a Black Throne and then put an Emperor clone on it to simulate a weaker version of the Golden Throne that could be used to permanently lock the demons out of Commorragh. The Custodian Guard got involved and stopped the project, but it shows the quiet desperation of both factions. Commorragh has mostly been stabilized since the whole debacle. I mean, as much as you can consider a city that's now part Shadow Realm, missing entire chunks, and is in a state of brutal civil war stable, and it's not really clear what's next for the Dark Elder, but who knows, maybe a few cheeky models are on the way. If you enjoyed the video and you want to support the channel, then pick up a Majorkill Custodian Guard RGB desk pad. These only have 48 hours before they're gone for good, and feature a custom one-of-one artwork featuring Valdor, Ra, Malkador, the Emperor, and over 25 other hand-drawn custodians, printed in high res. You don't want to miss this. Hit the subscribe button and hit the real subscribe button for more dark content. Join the Discord for more memes, and I'll see you in the next one. Peace.